Hey, and welcome to the show. The sponsors of today's show are Fitness Training Scotland, and if you're looking to get into the fitness industry and don't know where to start with training or where to get your qualifications from, then visit Fitness Training Scotland on their Facebook and their website. And what Fitness Training Scotland do, they deliver quality training across Scotland for the health and fitness industry, including personal training, strength and conditioning, kettlebells, Olympic lifting, sports massage, nutrition, and many other fantastic qualifications. Now that sounds amazing. So you just go to ftscotland.org, which is their website, or search on Facebook at FT Scotland. My other sponsor is Beasts and Bells. Now they are a sports clothing brand based also in the UK, Scotland. You just go along to beastsandbells.com and you can see their shop there. And it's one of my favourite clothing brands, one of my favourite sponsors. Not that I can say that. It's like picking your favourite child, but some of the quality of these t-shirts are really good. And they have the Beasts and Bells beanie, which is a hat, and they have a cap, they have some hoodies, and they have ladies and men's embroidered vests. My favourite, because I have one of these, is the Beasts and Bells classic t-shirt, which comes in black or white. So all you have to do is pop along to beastsandbells.com and you can see their sick designs. My other sponsor is Skin Tags, which is a bespoke rash guard company. And they are also based in Scotland. Now, I've seen them design rash guards for some big groups or just for yourself. You can get them individually or for a team, sports team. You send them your designs. They'll knock you up some mock-ups. And if you're happy, then they will send you out some fantastic quality rash guards. So that is Skin Tags with a Z .rash guards on Facebook. My other sponsor, if you are a fan of the show and you want to contribute in some way, you've listened to the show regularly and you think to yourself, how can I make and help this show to be better instantaneously? Then all you have to do is go along to my Patreon, which is patreon.com/IAMKAYPEE, IAMKAYPEE, and that means you can subscribe to my Patreon, and the different levels you subscribe to, you get more exclusive and awesome content the higher the subscription level you subscribe to. So that is from $5 all the way through to $50, which is basically nothing. So that is patreon.com/IAMKAYPEE. My guest today is Smobito, aka Chancellor Puddinhead. That is going to be his name for today, as I can't use his real one because of his job. He's a spy. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the IAMKAYPEE podcast, and today I am joined by Chancellor Puddinhead.
Hi, how you doing?
Is that your Christian name?
Yeah, that's it. Like yours is KP.
Oh, hey, it's just for tax purposes, eh?
Yeah, me too.
You'll have to come in just a wee bit. Sorry, yeah, it's like a whole thing. You should be used to it. Like, did you not play in a band for a number of years?
Yeah, but I don't know. That's when, I guess it's part of growing up, that sort of playing in a band thing. And it doesn't matter whether you're musical or not, you do it anyway. And it doesn't matter if you're good or not, you do it anyway. And it was just a lot of fun. It wasn't really actually...
Yeah.
I guess at the time I thought it was something serious and real. But reflecting...
You never seemed like a band person to me. Not that I didn't think you were talented. But
I wasn't musical at all.
when we met each other, I was like, "Oh, you're in this really terrible metal band." not that you were terrible.
No, I fucking was. No, I was really fucking terrible.
You were definitely the best of a bad bunch.
Get the fuck out of here, man. No way.
No, you were.
Man, I just had so much fucking fun. It was just ridiculous how much fun you could have. Like, I remember, like, you know, like I used to like rip.
So we shouldn't probably say the name of the band, should we?
Nah, we'll not be that harsh. Like, so what happened is you used to
It
rip.
doesn't rhyme with something dicks. They suck dicks.
I can't even do it because the guitarist is such a nice guy that I can never like, and like, you know, yeah, he's such a good guy.
He is a nice guy, yeah.
Yeah, I remember like he used to rip shorts, like when I was riding BMX, the saddle would like grab the crotch and then like rip it. Mm-hmm. So you'd have this sort of skirt. I just thought it was the best thing ever. I'd like wear like
these rip shorts.
Yeah, I'd just wear them on stage. So I had like, it was like almost like shocking people that you had like this fucking weird skirt on, you know? Yeah, it was just that time where it was cool to be different, you know. And now that I'm old, then look at these people that have got like their tongue cut into, and I'm like,
You mean 17? Is that age when you're not like a general, not a specific time in like, you know, the 19 whatevers. It's like
the 1970s.
It was never that cool. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like you become 17 and you're like, yeah, let's be different.
I guess it's age and stage. You act your age, don't you? And you think that you're an adult at that age, but actually you're just a fanny jumping about in a pair of ripped shorts that looks like a skirt.
But like, but I thought I was totally different at that age.
Oh, totally.
Like everyone probably thinks the same way. I don't know how to look through someone else's mind and see how they perceived themselves when they were 17. But I really thought I was like the bee's knees internally, not outwardly.
Yeah, but from like the village that you were from, you pretty much were. You know, like you were totally doing it.
Like at the age of 8.
I guess what you know separates people from that age is actually the confidence. I suppose it's not really what you're doing; it's just how you hold yourself, and how you carry yourself. And you know, you were quite a confident young guy. So therefore, if you act confident, then it doesn't matter what you dress up like or look like, then it takes you a long way in life, you know?
It's funny how you spend your whole time trying to dress differently at that age, but ultimately you become part of a group that all dresses the same. You know, emos, BMXers, you know, you all are wearing the same things that are geared towards those types of things.
I mean, I look at BMX now and I think it's disappeared up its own arse.
Yeah.
But was it disappeared up its own arse back then? Yeah. And it was just that I was involved and thought it was amazing. And everyone who's involved in it now probably thinks it's amazing. But outside looking in now, you're just like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah.
You know, it's so cliquey and it's such a bizarre part of society. Yeah. But I guess as a 17-year-old or 18-year-old, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah. And if you're not part of just the normal workforce, you know, going a 9 to 5 every week, and you're maybe doing something that's creative, or you've just loved doing BMX, it's not a normal thing to do in the sort of the standard societal sort of pecking order, if you so to speak. So I think when you do those sort of things, you become very cliquey about it. And you sort of stick together.
I think you just get so far into it. Like, you know, listen, if I could have been a pro BMXer and lived my life and done all the stuff of the BMX life, man, I would have fucking ripped your arm off, right? But see, nowadays, like looking back, like, thank fuck I never got that. You know, because like BMXers, you know, unless you're in the like top 1%, you're getting paid shit.
Yeah.
You know, and you're actually risking everything for it. Because, you know, injury is pretty serious, you know, if you fuck up. You know, it's like ACLs and
you got to ride every single day. It's quite tough.
And then you're paid like $6,000 a year if you have 2 good sponsors. And one's a drink company, like Monster or some shit. And then what happens is after you hit 30, where are you at? Unless you've got a YouTube channel, you're fucked. You know, so thank God I was sucked dick at riding BMX, because if I'd actually been good at it, I just would have. I was so like when we fought, Darren. You know, like I was so consumed by it that. Yeah. And it's the same thing for fighting. I'm pretty lucky that wasn't my destination. Because
the things that you've done, like you've done a lot of great things in your life, but do you think you naturally move on, or do you think you make a conscious decision to be like, this is not for me?
No, like. it hurts the ego to move on.
Yeah.
I'm a creature of habit. So, you know, anyone who's had to give up something, we've spoken about this before, but, you know, basically I actively left, you know, MMA, and I actively left it on a really basic principle, which is, you know, my dad wasn't really interested. For me to get my dad's attention when I was a kid, I had to do something that I had. I had to do. I had to take him in a cage and smash fuck him. No, I had to participate in what he was interested in, you know. And I knew that if, because I was going to be a dad, you know, and I knew that I couldn't continue that because I was so obsessed with fighting and so consumed by it, and I loved it so much that if I kept on training, then I wouldn't last as a dad, because, you know, unless my daughter was going to come along to MMA class every day, you know, so I just had to I had to stop.
Yeah.
Which it hurt me a lot, because if you do something night and day for so long,
Yeah.
and you sort of think about it and you weigh your food out and you you like practice like in the gym, out of the gym, and then you're like geeking out on YouTube videos and reading articles, and then suddenly you go boom, it stops, and then but where are you? Who are you after that?
I know, because you certainly think it's going to be the rest of your. Well, you don't necessarily think it's going to be the rest of your life, but you can't see yourself without that in your life either.
Yeah.
At that time, you know, someday you're going to have to adult at some point, but at the same time, it's like I don't want to either.
For me, it's like stopping anything. If you one day you were like, fuck it, I'm not going to eat pizza anymore, you would pine for pizza. You know, if you one day were like, right, I'm not drinking anymore, I'm not eating dairy anymore, I'm not doing anything anymore. Something that you do if you do something every day, and then suddenly you just jack it.
Just the bit about you fighting your dad, there was, to get his attention, there was have you seen the video online recently actually of a guy, an older man? No, he's fighting his dad in the cage.
No.
Yep.
I thought you were going to talk about that football one where somebody like kicks the ball at the goal.
Just come
Kicks the ball at the goal and then the dad pushes the child over.
I wish we could like have that video up just now. So basically, is it like a little kids soccer in America?
Yeah, totally.
So, and it's just the sideline video, and this little kid kicks it towards the goal, and I guess the guy's goalie son is not near it, so the guy comes out of nowhere and just pushes his son in front of the ball.
Oh, you know, I can just imagine it. The dad or whoever it is like, son, the ball's coming for you. So the little boy looks at the man and he's like, fuck it, just push save, and then they score anyway. It's terrible.
It must be America, because you wouldn't get that level of sort of enthusiasm. But could you put it from any?
You are drunk. You don't know. You don't know British football, man. Really? It is obsessive.
But no one would push their son in front of the ball.
Oh, like everyone would do it, man. You know, there's a word for it though. It's something. Is it like helicopter parenting or something? Yeah. Is that what the term is? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very odd.
That is something that is, I don't know, is that part of it? Or is that just something that's always been around? Like, or is it more acceptable? I don't know. Like,
well, look at America and that fucking bizarre shit where they make their children look like Barbie dolls and then they compete against each other.
Yeah.
Like,
what's it called? The beauty pageant?
Yeah, beauty pageants, that's it. I was thinking of Little Miss Sunshine or something, that film.
That's a great movie.
Oh, such a good movie. The granddad. I think he says something like, when you're young, you're mad to do it. When you're old, you're mad not to do it or something. I love that saying because I'm getting old.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, someone asked me recently, like, what was my favorite age? And if like maybe 5 years ago, I would have said 17.
Really?
But thinking back on it, I said 28 because I was old enough to know, but young enough to still do it, you know?
That's a tough one. I think my favorite age is the age I'm always at right
Mentally.
now. Oh, no, I think, to try and explain that, like, you know, just to be still alive is my favorite age. Mm-hmm. You know, and to be able to, like, sometimes people think that looking back at their life is either like a bit sad or reflective. You're doing it at a certain age and stage so that you're trying to make sense of things. But
there's nothing worse than seeing someone who's not worse, but like so sort
pining
of,
for the past.
you see an old person, usually male, that has a lot of regret in their life, and it's not something that they're saying. It's something that kind of spills out of their very being. When you meet these people, just there's just like a, you know, the type of people, you've met them in your life probably, and you just think you've got so much sort of regret in your life.
I think most people do, but they hide it.
Yeah,
everyone has regret.
Okay.
Everyone has something that they feel shame over, they feel shit about, you know. But then it's just the extent of how much and how much you hide it. You know, I think that, you know, I think we've spoken about this before. You can have, you know, post-traumatic stress, which is you don't make sense of something.
Yeah.
A trauma, usually, obviously, for that. But you also have post-traumatic development, where you actually do make sense of it and move on.
Right.
And people are like, well, what's that? And it's like, well, it's the people who don't get fucked up. You know? So I think it's important to reflect so you don't get fucked up on it. You've got to accept stuff, you know. So in those terms, my favourite age is now, because I'm not dead. And
have you been reading Eckhart Tolle by any chance?
I've never heard of him. Is that him?
I thought you were going to say I've never heard of reading.
I'm a bit of a knuckle dragger, that's sure.
No, he's a famous sort of, you could say he sells snake oil, but he wrote a book called The Power of Now, and he basically tells you live within the moment. If you're too focused on, if your mind fills with tomorrow or what has been, then you're not focused on living in the current moment. But it's good. But the way he sells it, it's like it becomes sort of culty. And he like, the thing about the book is to like give it to someone without, you know, just be like, oh, this book's for you. It's chosen you. So
when I say like my favourite age is now, it's not because I'm like thinking of some like Buddhist shit where I'm like fucking so in control of myself that I know that now is the best fucking moment ever. It's just because, you know, as I've spoken to you before, you know, I've had some pretty low times over the last year, and you know, I guess like, you know, you've had Bob Garrett on the show, and he's somebody that's talked about mental health, and I'm not going to stick on this for too long, but you know, I had some pretty dark times this year, so I think that I feel quite fortunate to be here. Rather I'm not like, as I was saying, like thinking, oh yeah, now's the best time fucking ever. You know, it's just more of a case of, I'm fucking still here. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you could have thought of what could have been. It's like a sort of scary.
Yeah, well, I think it's quite simply what could have been is I could have taught myself, but I didn't. So.
And the very fact you chose to not do that is, you know, that's strong will.
Yeah, I think you've got to have strong will to do it also, though. So it can go one of two ways, you know, like, but I think that
there's a lot of people that have that idea that someone killing themselves is like an act of cowardice.
Yeah, I never understood that. Like, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, they're fucking cowards. I'm like, no, they've got balls of steel. They fucking killed themselves. They're fucking well hard. But it's, you know, the thing is that it's actually, I looked at it as a journey that I was lucky because I had the insurance policy of my family, you know, and, you know, I don't think.
What's lucky about that?
I'm not sure, but I'm lucky because it was almost like, you know, without unwittingly, you know, I knew that I couldn't because, you know, for a start, I couldn't mess up my daughter's life that much, you know, like, and for a second, you know, that I felt a huge amount of love, you know, and that sort of carries you through it as, you know, and even though my brain was doing all these sorts of crazy things and telling me these crazy things, like, you know, it was a total blessing, not in the Christian way, that my family just were there, you know, and it sort of puts things into context that it's not about me really, you know. But what I also have to do is I have to get to the position where, you know, my mental health is not fucking up my family. You know, I've got to be, you know, a dad. I've got to be responsible, and I can't just mope about like a prick all the time, you know. I've got to pull my finger out my arse and get on with life. And
that's a buzzword. You can't say mope around when talking about mental health.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
A trigger warning.
I'm triggered by your pus.
Yeah. Fair dues, I don't blame you for that. But yeah, and I think that, you know, and you know, what's funny is that it's been like it's almost like a rain cloud, you know, and I've sort of, the rain cloud has passed now, and and feeling much more like my old self. But who was it before? Who knows?
Yeah. And is it something that's left you, do you think, or is it something that could sort of,
No, I think
you're going to have to deal with ongoing?
Yeah, I think that anyone who is like, I think that's just a cycle. I think people like go through, if you have a low time, like it's not going to be your first and it's not going to be your last. You're going to have to face this again. But then there's the thing to do about it is to either, like I was saying, like it's a cloud and the wind will blow it past, or you actually get better at dealing with it. That's where Bob Garrett is, really surpassed himself.
Yeah.
Because he's had some fucking horrific rain clouds in his life. And he's tried to talk about it, but I don't think anyone will ever understand where he's been and how with the journey that he's travelled.
I think a lot of people feel that way when they're in this sort of state, is that no one sort of truly would understand, and that can sort of negate them from talking to anybody.
Yeah. I think that's actually the toughest part sometimes about feeling shit or low or depressed or whatever you want to call it, is actually being able to speak to other people. You become so insular, you become so sort of, or I did, I became so like an island. It was so difficult, it was so difficult to actually talk about it. Because you just talk to yourself about it. The inner monologue is just what you survive with, and it becomes a very bizarre thing,
I think one of the sort of the biggest aspects of this sort of mental health issue is talking. That's
Totally.
the key focus. Like, you have to talk to someone. Like, when you're having this inner monologue, you're providing sort of like a feedback from another person or a bunch of people that isn't really what they feel and think and are saying. Like, you're saying it within yourself, and you're not giving that person a chance either to really have their say in this situation. Like, they might not think that way, that you're giving them, feeding them words and sort of staging the reaction that they might give you to something, and that's all in your mind, as opposed to just talking to them and knowing how they feel.
I think it goes like, so I've got, I think it's like being an alky. If you're an alcoholic,
okay,
you can't have somebody going in and going to be like, you're an alky, and they'll be like, sound aye, pass the tinny. Like, if the alcoholic has to realise themselves that they have to be ready to address their alcohol problems.
Well, they say you have to get to the lowest rung possible. You have to hit rock bottom as an alcoholic or as an addict to then get help.
Do you think so?
But to hit rock bottom with depression, to then think that you need help, is the scary line between, you going through and ending your life, or you being so low that you just have to reach out. And that's a very fine line. How would you have to tread that then?
Who knows? I think for reaching out for me, it felt like I was failing. And that was like, so that, and the reason I felt like I was failing is because I felt like I hadn't managed to deal with it myself.
Right.
So actually going and speaking about it was almost like I had to give, again, it's an ego thing, like giving something up.
Yeah.
I had to actually go and speak to somebody because, I wasn't very well. And, we've spoken about the stuff the bizarre shit I was doing. I just wasn't a very happy person. And, after you spend a few months not laughing and various other different things are probably much worse, you've got to finally address it, but you've got to get to that point yourself.
I guess you become acclimatized to it as well. Like, how do you know that you're in this depressive state?
Well, I was definitely quite used to it.
Right.
But I definitely shouldn't put my family through that shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's brutal.
You just think this is your normal state, I guess, would it?
Yeah, totally. And you've got to recognise that there's life after that. And all you have to do is actually talk. You have to get to that point where you're ready to do that. Anyway, let's not talk about this shit all day. People will be bored at their fucking minds. Jesus.
No, but it is important. This is one thing.
I've turned into Bob Garrett. It's like fucking mental health.
But the thing that people say that should be sort of men speaking to men, because obviously the sort of demographic of people that are killing themselves at an extraordinary rate is male, white males of a certain age, and that's who does end up committing suicide from sort of mental health issues. So how would you try and encourage that demographic to talk when traditionally in the UK and as males in general we're not encouraged to talk?
Dude, speaking as somebody who's just kind of walked that road, I have no fucking idea. Like it took me so much time to actually just to go and speak to somebody, and the person I spoke to wasn't a man. It was my doctor, who was a woman.
A lady doctor?
Yeah.
Where did they get them from?
Well, she was. It was kind of odd because she was amazing. And I say odd because sometimes when you go to doctors, they'll refer you or something, and she was just so. She really, really listened, and I said that to her. I was like, it's you're the person that's. She was just so great, and everything the way that she sort of dealt with it was just great. I can't explain that. That's not explaining it very well. But then equally so, I then actually went and got some counselling, and in the third session of counselling, I was like, right, I'm done. That's enough. Thanks. I'm totally fine. Thank you very much. And I came out of the room something like 2.5 hours later, and I was allotted 45 minutes or something.
Wow.
And and then it's totally sideswipes you. And again, when I went to counselling, I thought I was going to swagger into the room, and she'd be like, "Well, how do you feel about that?" I'd be like, "Fucking shit."
Like asking stereotypical psychologist.
Pat me on the shoulder and hand me a tissue.
How do you feel about your mother?
I know. And but every session I walked out of the room, I was like, "Well played, well fucking played." She was really good. And
it must be strange to go in there though, because you always hear of Americans on TV shows and just day-to-day Americans, the general public, all have some sort of therapist or going through therapy or counselling. That's they're pre-setting for life is that they're just going to go through life like this, and you think it can be healthy.
Man, it was probably the healthiest thing I've ever done.
Okay.
Like, I can't explain to you how healthy it was. It was, it was a catalyst in my brain. But it wasn't a catalyst purely because she was really good at her job. It was a catalyst because I was able to sort of say things that I felt that had been sort of stuck in my brain. Because, what we all do is we sort of put these things, if it's a stressful thing, you usually either deal with it and talk about it and get it out there and then it's fine. And then sometimes you have to revisit it, or you sort of put it into a box in your brain. You're like, well, fuck that. I'm fucking going to leave that back in the rear parts of my brain, And then I was
bits.
I was able to sort of deal with that shit that I'd been raging about for a few years.
And obviously the care that you have, like it involves, looking after people. So this is something in your day-to-day life that you're not getting out your own sort of problems.
Yeah, we've spoken about this before, man, where I feel it's my job to listen to other people. So, but equally so, I feel that it's not my job to put my shit onto other people.
You can in your job, that's just like part of it. That's
imagine somebody was like, "Oh, this happened." You think that's bad? Like, you hear this?
Fucking some cunt cut me off today. Someone throttled them.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I fucking hate driving in your city, man. It sucks.
You can say it, Brett, it's fine.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, no stalkers. KP does not live here in Edinburgh. No, but I fucking hate driving. I have a problem, but I have a deep psychological problem with driving. I drive so fucking much that I despise it, and I despise myself as a driver.
Really? I don't think about it, man. I just put my earphones in and listen to podcasts because I drive a lot as well.
Yeah, you do.
And I'm up and down. Like 60 miles one way, 40 one way and 40 back some days. And it's just, I just put my earphones in and this is what I'm doing now. That's the way I think of it. Like, this is what I have to do.
Yeah.
I don't think, oh, fuck, this drive is going to kill me.
Yeah, I totally one of the things that I was really stoked on is I fucking love podcasts. I'm all about the podcast. It's probably one of my hobbies.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm like for a hobby. Yeah. And when you start doing this podcast, I was like, oh, I'm so stoked for KP, it's just
I didn't think you would listen to it.
Oh, fucking right I did, you know?
Because I know how you are with technology, and I was like, unless you have the app with it on it, you're not going to figure out what's going on.
But I harassed you into putting it onto it because I'm a Samsung user, because I'm basically a knuckle dragger. I'm not like...
Samsung's the best, man.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, it's just what I've got.
This is what I'm talking about.
But like, you know, I was like, because obviously you had it on YouTube and then it's on Apple or whatever, and I was like, get on Stitcher, because I downloaded Stitcher because of a really well listened to podcast called S-Town,
Okay.
because I wanted to listen to it. And then I just sort of, you know, and I have Spotify as well. So I've got a couple of ways that I listen to podcasts, because not everything is on Spotify. Like, for instance, not that I can be arsed listening to him, but Joe Rogan's not on.
Yeah.
On.
I wonder why he's not on there. I think it used to be.
Because he says, "Where is the money?"
Yeah.
With
Do
a
you think
Stitcher.
so?
Yeah. He says, "Where's the money going?"
All right.
Because people pay for Spotify.
Right. Okay.
And then he puts his shit on there for free.
Yeah.
He gets paid by his advertisers.
Okay.
But they're getting the revenue from people paying. Whereas Stitcher, nobody pays for that.
Okay.
They get their money through advertising.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. So he says, "Where's that money going?" Not to him.
I just hate Spotify. I'm not a big fan of it either. It's just a weird sort of setup.
So how do you listen to your music?
Do you know what? This is going to sound very weird to you, but
YouTube?
I don't really listen to music anymore.
KP, you were one of the most fucking music-driven people when you were a teenager. You were so mad for music.
Honestly, like I don't listen. I don't know why. I'm just constantly listening to podcasts. I think my attention span's just got really small, like infinitely more smaller.
So you're not even listening to full albums. You're sometimes listening to songs if you're lucky.
So I just listen to podcasts because it's like new.
So who's giving you a pinger right now for podcasts?
I listened to a bit of Your Mom's House. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
It's Tom Segura and Christina.
And his wife.
It's pretty good. It gets a bit too childish for me, which is funny, you know, because I can put up with a lot of childish shit. Or Kill Tony. Great podcast. Tony Hinchcliffe.
That's Tony Hinchcliffe, yeah.
Went to see them in Toronto, actually.
Joe Rogan,
I was on
what
his
have you
guest
done
list.
to us? Because all of these people have been sort of almost spoon-fed to us by Joe Rogan.
That's totally true. I don't listen to any podcasts that are like Serial. Is that a big podcast they talk about?
Is that not the...
Like the sort of
That's
the crime one, is it? Or something?
All right.
I don't like those sort of ones.
Nah.
Like I like just conversation or comedy.
Yeah. I was speaking to you about Freakonomics last time, wasn't it?
I heard about that.
Because
there's
love that.
there's the book and there's the documentary that was on Netflix.
I've done none of those because they're not a podcast. But like the latest one that came out today is about Ford. Oh no, sorry, it was probably 2 podcasts ago. I'm absolutely tripping
Ford.
off my Ford. You know, the car company.
Okay.
It's fucking really interesting, and here is why. Right?
Are you talking about Henry Ford?
Well, he was the
I can't.
yeah. He could have.
Fiddler.
Was he really?
No. Oh, come on, look at his moustache.
Have you got a photo of him? I have no idea what that motherfucker looks like.
Okay, I'll get it here.
Is he like fucking shell snatcher? You're getting your ass sued, by the way.
No.
Real name KP.
Fuck you. Do you know that Henry? He doesn't even have a moustache. That's how fucking terrible.
How in the know you are. So anyway, I think the main shareholder is actually probably his great grandson or great great grandson. His name's, I think it's
Terry.
Bill Ford.
Bilford.
Anyway,
Buford.
so he's just appointed like a pretty new CEO to the company, and he's taken it into a completely different realm, away from actual vehicles, from cars.
What I've heard is though they've stopped making just normal vehicles and they're going to be just doing the sort of the trucks. Is that
You're
what they're doing?
on it, Darren.
Do you know where I heard this
So
from?
who?
Redban.
Get the fuck out of
Brian
here.
Redban.
Is he not talking about dick pills and shagging? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck does he know about Fords?
He's on that comedian podcast, and there was a girl comedian that did a minute, and he fancied her, and she was like a Ford salesperson, and he was throwing out all these Ford facts, and he's like, cool fact, they've stopped selling cars.
No, they haven't. But what they're concentrating on is like, you know, those big fucking like, you know, what we would probably call like an L200 type motherfucker.
Still don't know what that is.
Oh, like a pickup truck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what they're
Like
called,
a Dodge Ram.
like an F-150s in America and
Is
all
that
that
not,
shit. Yeah, like a
is that
Dodge
not
Ram.
a plane?
Raptors and all that.
F-150, not an airplane.
That's a Ford.
Okay. It's a Ford plane.
And so they're concentrating on like SUVs and
Okay.
these 4x4 motherfuckers that we were talking about. Not a
Why?
plane. Because they're saying what the chief guy is saying, the CEO, he's saying that they should stick to what they're good at. But this is where it gets interesting. What they're diversifying into is the operating system for automated vehicles. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to set up the standard for how driverless cars are going to work.
How are you going to get past Elon Musk and the Tesla?
Well, see, that's the thing. They're ball deep in there, like competing against them. So they're they're actually investing, and of course, that's where it comes into the sort of economy part of it. Is it what you have loads of people who are investing in the company going, we've invested in a car company. Why the fuck are you trying to get a computer operating system which stops, robot cars running folk over and crashing into each other? Like that's not where we make our money. But then this CEO is talking about Kodak.
The camera company.
Yeah. So they had like loads of patents and all the rest of it
Yeah.
for digital cameras. And they're like, nah, that's not what we do. We take photos with chemicals and paper. And like, now look. So he's like, fuck that. We've got to look to the future. So, I mean, like, I know nothing really about.
So I'm just reading here online and they're saying that they're phasing out most of its cars except two models,
It's got
which is the Mustang and
Sally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mustang and Sally and the Ford Focus. The Ford Focus is like one of the best selling cars.
Is it?
Well, for Ford anyway.
What was the one before it? KP.
The Ford Not So Focused.
It was the Escort, man.
The Escort.
Yeah.
That was an amazing car.
What do you know about the Ford Escort?
I remember one from a very young kid, as a young kid.
The only thing you know about Escort is a magazine I used to stare at in the newsagents, man.
I found a porno in the woods. It's like everyone finds a porno in the woods.
What comedian did a fucking bit about that where he's like drilling holes into the loam? Yeah.
The Escort. Like I was brought up with the Escort.
Yeah, your old man has had a number of Fords. Like,
Of course.
I'm definitely cracking open beer number 2.
What was it? He had the Ford.
Everything.
How was your punk, by the way?
Well, I've got to say, like,
Just to pretext this, Rory drinks nothing but Tennants. I mean, Rory from Smobito at Chancellor Puddinhead.
I'm sure you can go back and edit that out and listen to the whole thing.
Yeah. We're not live. It's fine.
You're just going to edit Chancellor Puddinhead in there really badly.
I'm going to get the bleep for this and I'll be like, Rory. And then I'll bleep this out at the Rory.
Yeah. It's just,
So if you're listening to this, I say Rory and we'll bleep it out.
It's probably not very funny to anybody listening, but incredibly funny to me. What did I think about the beer?
Because you don't like anything but Tennants.
That's not
For
true.
someone that doesn't like reminiscing about his past, you only drink the beer that you grew up with.
I think it's more, we go back to this where it's more I'm a complete creature of habit, whereas I struggle to come away from what I'm used to.
Right.
And, you can only advance in life by being resilient and, adapting to change.
Not being retarded. Here's to not being retarded.
Cheers, man. We're not drinking stinky tea.
What do you mean stinky tea?
It's Tennants, stinky tea.
So we're drinking Staropramen.
Yep.
Have you been to Prague?
No, I've only been to a number of places. I'm one of these people that.
But you have been to some random places for not being to a lot of places.
Yeah.
Like Canada.
I've been to, I've hardly travelled at all in my life, and I've been to Canada twice. There's something really draws me to Canada, and it's not Canadians. I don't know what it is.
Hot Canadian women.
Moose. No, I don't know.
It's the beavers.
It's
hot
all the
beavers.
shit that can kill you, like mountain lions, wolves, fucking bears.
Yeah.
Like a variety of different bears. Exposure.
Justin Bieber. He can kill you with his music.
His banter. I don't know.
I'm on the
Like,
same train.
Traveling has been, that's probably one of the, we were talking about regrets and looking back. I definitely should have traveled more.
Right.
And and you've traveled quite a lot because you lived in America at one point, didn't you?
And Canada.
Did you live in Canada as well?
Yeah, remember I lived there for a year.
Yeah, so you did. Holy shit, Alzheimer's is strong with this one.
Remember I was training extreme couture. Yeah.
Yeah. Still one of the best things you've ever done for me in my brain. It's the best thing Darren's ever done. It could have been shit for you. I'm just like, that was amazing.
It was great because I got to meet like a bunch of fighters.
Yeah.
I got like TJ. I've got pictures with TJ. I met Ariel Harwani. What's his name?
Yeah,
Ariel Harwani.
Yeah. The pundit commentator.
Junos. He has a T-shirt with that on it. I'm not just being anti-Semitic.
Speaking of which, I listened.
And he is Jewish. Sorry.
Is he? I've listened to. I spoke to you about this before as well, but I listened to a podcast because I like a variation of podcasts. I'm going to go back to this quickly about circumcision. And
just pull your chair and you won't.
It's just weird having this thing right in my face, man. And then talking about circumcision sound. It's like, the listeners will not understand how the microphone fucks with you. I'm feeling like Joey
I'm so
Diaz.
used to it.
Yeah, just having a big,
so you're talking about
fluffy head in your mouth.
Ariel.
No, I was talking about I listened to a podcast about circumcision not long ago because we drive obviously a lot.
Did you get cut off?
I took my roll neck off, but it was actually a really interesting podcast. It was on the Stuff You Should Know podcast. You should give it a listen.
Is it your Stuff You Should Know?
Mm-hmm.
What did they tell you about?
Lots of different stuff that I won't go into just now. But as you were talking about, predominantly us uncultured and us unknowledgeable people think that the Jewish religion would be the main populace, the main concentration of people who were circumcised, but it's actually Muslim men.
Right, okay.
In terms of population and percentage of people who are circumcised.
So does it call for it in the Quran? Or is it just something they do?
It's just something that's like a culture. I don't think it does call for it in their text.
Wow.
It's just
something. Where that came from.
I don't know, but I find that
probably all doing it in the Middle East at some point.
It apparently started in Egypt.
Oh, Egypt, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know why the Egyptians did it, but that's the earliest record, I think, was in Egypt.
Probably how they built the Great Pyramids.
What was their foreskins?
Or just a pile of foreskins.
Do you know something? I thought this podcast was going to be serious as fuck, but it's clearly descending into a giant pile of foreskins.
Yes, the great foreskin of Pisa.
I know. Somebody phoned Daniele Belleri. It's descending.
If he listens to this one, he'll be just like, I'm good friends with him. He said happy birthday to me on Facebook. We're like close Facebook pals now.
I want to know, did you actually speak to him first of all because of Bob? Or
no.
It wasn't. So it was completely separate to Bob.
I messaged them.
No way.
Yeah.
See, I automatically in my brain was like, because obviously Bob knew him from when he was in Ecuador.
I never knew this. I never knew he knew him beforehand.
No, I think basically, I don't know if Bob's told you the story or not.
He was like, "Oh, I know. I've spoken to him, and we're friends on Facebook," and that's what he said.
Well, from what I remember from it, and I could be totally fucking wrong here because my memory is dog shit. I couldn't even remember you lived in Canada and trained with the best fighters in the world, but until you reminded me. But what had happened is Bob had his credit card cloned a couple of times. So it fucked him up, so people were robbing his money and so basically...
When he was in Ecuador?
Yeah, so basically what happens is
Should we play him for all those prostitutes then? Should you, Bob? With card.
I was totally going to make a sick joke there, but I was going to keep that back. Anyway,
sorry, it's Moby Talk.
One of Bob's jobs was to kill snakes on that note. So in the wee compound that he was in, like fucking the south or in Ecuador. Was it Ecuador and Peru he was in?
I think it was Ecuador, but he was pretty close to the somewhere.
Fucking heaps of deadly snakes about there. And then so the villagers fucking hate snakes. So if they see a snake, they basically just hit it with a fucking stick. And then they would chap Bob's door, and it was his job. I don't know what sort of fucking mental state he was in if he was in this reality.
Imagine just like tripping your tits off of ayahuasca and a bunch of like Native
Big
Indians.
Bob, come and fucking deal with the snake, Bob.
Big Billy Big Buzz.
I'm actually a reptile myself just now. I'll be with you in 5 minutes.
I turned into the Illuminati and I will take care of this other serpent.
I'm currently surfing dimensions, but when I come back, so
He
anyways,
probably imagined he was like what's his name? The guy from Harry Potter.
oh yeah, Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
Oh fuck,
The snake guy with the white head.
Voldemort.
Yeah, but you can't say his name.
He who must not be named.
Yeah, that guy.
Because we can't remember. No, but it was Bob's job to get
Malfoy.
some. Okay.
Have you not seen it a billion times? You have a child.
Yeah, I've
or
read the
does she
book,
not?
but I've got fucking the worst memory ever.
You've read them yourself or to someone?
Both. I've read them myself and to.
Them
Damn
to-
it! It was to beef again.
Read to yourself.
Anyway, so
Yeah, sorry. So Bob had to.
beep that one as well. Cheers.
Yeah.
So you had to get petrol, pour it on the fucking dead snake, and then
Right.
set fire to the poor bastard thing.
It's a waste of snake.
Do you have other uses? You get like 30 miles to the gallon out of that snake. Is it a waste of petrol, a waste of snake? But yeah, the snakes are. So the reason he has to burn them is because obviously the venom's still like active in the dead snake.
Right,
so
okay.
if a fucking person or a dog swags past and accidentally stands on it,
Yeah.
then they're dead.
Okay.
So it was his job in the village to.
Imagine fucking looking after a dog like your pet dog in the jungle. I mean, you're scared of fucking letting out the back when you live here in Scotland where nothing can harm it. Like it could eat a slug and maybe die.
I know, but
imagine letting your dog out in fucking the Amazon and everything will be trying to kill it.
I know, but think about it like this. So where we're from, there's lots of little towns. Now I imagine that's what Bob lived in there. It was like just like a tiny little town. Like I lived in just outside of where we're from, or where we've lived at one point. And there was 8 houses there. Now I'd imagine that Bob's bit had 8 houses, 20 houses.
His bit.
Yeah, what do you call it? His little village, you know, and then, you know, but it just so happens that there's lots of fucking mental stuff in the woods. You know, for them it's rainforest, but you know, they also probably just see it as the woods.
For the dog though, like letting your dog out and there's fucking everything that wants to kill it will kill it.
Yeah, but that's why they set fire to them.
But you only have to deal with angry badgers over here if you let your dog out.
That's true.
Maybe.
But that's
Have you ever seen a badger?
No, but just along from where we used to live, I was looking to build a
Badger's den.
mountain bike track, and then fucking this, we got permission, and then the field next to us, this fucking like 4x4 drove up, and then like I was like, it's a bit odd, and then like proceeded because I was on foot, so it took me ages to walk, but they then fucking let off a charge down a hole. And the only thing I can reason, so they weren't killing rabbits with explosives. So the only thing I can reason with was they were killing badgers.
Fuck's sake.
But then the farmers hate, it's close to a dairy herd, so they hate the badgers because what is it?
TB, I think they have.
Tuberculosis. But is there actually scientific? You're gonna have a swamp of people going.
Can you
fucking right?
Can you get like bovine TB? I think you can actually. I think that is a thing. I will Google this. Can cows get TB from...
That is the main reason, I think, though, isn't it?
From badgers. Oh, comes up already. Answer
And it
is,
says,
if an infected
"Fuck
badger
badgers."
eats or drinks from cattle feed or water troughs, they spread TB bacteria through their saliva. Wow. They're like little wolverines.
What is tuberculosis?
I think it's like a disease or an infection. So it used to kill a lot of people during the sort of Wild West on the frontier. And one of the big things was to go to a drier climate because it goes through your lungs.
All right, okay.
Let's see, I know someone who would be able to tell us.
Who's that?
Laura. She's
Alright,
like,
she shit hot at that stuff.
she's shit hot at everything.
See, I'm normally
So
on
it's-
point with my shite facts about random shit.
So tuberculosis, TB, is an infectious disease usually caused by bacterium Mycobacterium tuberculosis.
How many bacteriums?
All the bacteriums too. Tuberculosis generally affects the lungs, but can also affect other parts of the body. Most infections do not have symptoms, in which case it's known as latent tuberculosis.
I've got that.
And supposedly back in the day, 2 out of 3 people would die from it. It was that bad.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know years ago when I first started work, there was a stat that 1 in 4, sorry, no, it was, I can't remember. I've forgotten the stat.
Okay.
But it was an insane amount of people in Hull had the clap. Like it was like 1 in 3 or something, like in Hull.
Okay.
You know, it's not tuberculosis, though, and they're not badgers, so it's got no relevance. Does like the phone not fucking like mess with the the electronics? Because remember back in the day, it used to be like
I don't get messages, and I put it off like Wi-Fi.
It's not dial-up anymore, so it's all right.
Yeah, the reason I know so much about tuberculosis is I've been playing a game recently called Red Dead Redemption. Maybe you've heard. Everyone
but I've seen your Instagram status updates, which is just constant dad joke / that game. So,
did you grow up playing video games? It doesn't seem like it's I've never heard you talk about playing anything.
Nah. So I did when I was at primary school.
Right.
But that was a really fucking long time ago. So like the last game I really seriously played was probably like Sonic. Like the Mega Drive 2. Yeah. I had a Mega Drive 2.
What it was called? A Mega Drive 2?
Yeah, it was like a smoother, sleeker, smaller Mega Drive. Still absolute.
Because there was the Master System. And then there was the Mega Drive.
Yep.
So you had the Mega Drive 2.
Which was exactly the same as a Mega Drive 1 with a different casing, basically.
Did it not go from 16-bit to 32-bit? I think that's where it changed.
That was definitely before your time, so I'm amazed that you don't know that shit.
I had a Master System.
That's because you were a total mink. You couldn't afford a Mega Drive, But, I've said to you a number of times, I'm going to change the subject again because that's all I ever do in my life is.
Well, you might have to get closer to the mic and change it.
Float about conversations. But I was really nervous about coming on here. But then I was like, do you know what? It's just talking shit with KP. And there's one thing that we're good at. It's definitely
talking nonsense.
Just talking absolute nonsense. And I think I actually wanted to say, because we spend lots of time apart where we don't see each other for ages and ages. And then, but it's, I've said this, that I've said it before, I was keeping saying, but that it's a sign of a good buddy where you can just drop right back in after almost years and just be like, and it's like a comfy pair of the same shit banter exists, and you just feel so comfortable. But I think that comes from, that is true friendship, but it has to come from somewhere. And for us, it definitely came from, not from like the music scene or anything like that, or the skate scene or the BMX scene, but definitely just punch and fuck each other.
I mean, you can't get to know someone better than rolling around on the floor and, fighting Mortal Kombat, together with each other. But when I look back on it, it was funny how when I knew you since I was 14, 15.
Yeah.
But then we didn't become sort of like proper friends till maybe when I was 23, 4, 5.
Yeah, so I was probably in my late 20s.
Yeah.
What's up, dog?
Sorry, we're getting interrupted by... Currently, I'm looking after my dad's dog, so she's now interrupted our podcast studio.
Just a wee butt scratch.
This is our second podcast appearance.
Is it really?
Not Laura, the dog.
So when was the dog last on?
The last episode. Did you listen to the last episode?
No, because it's just been put up recently. I'm not that fast.
I'll get to that in 2 seconds, but I want to just sort of continue what we're talking about. But yeah, we've known each other probably a good 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, because at that time I was...
At the time we started to become friends, like proper friends.
Yeah, because I was training in Aberdeen with Mark Howes and Nath. And then I started training in Fife.
How often did you go up to Aberdeen?
Well, I went up every weekend.
Right.
So I train on my own sort of Monday to Thursday. I'd just stay with Nathan, and I would just train like fuck.
Was he still in Perth at that point?
No, he was
in Aberdeen.
Yeah, he was in Aberdeen. He was only in Perth because he went to Perth College for a bit.
Right, okay.
Did the music thing.
I always think he was from Perth and then he went up to Aberdeen.
Total Aberdonian. Yeah, no, total Aberdonian, like, you know. And you know, I think he tried like lots of different martial arts, and then had somehow stumbled across, his mum actually worked with Mark.
Okay.
So, and then Mark was obviously, because if everyone's listened to the Billy Becker's podcast, you know, like with you, like, you know, he was. I would definitely say he was like one of the pioneers in Scotland. Mark has.
Oh yeah,
you know, like, you know,
there's no way you can't not include him as a definite pioneer.
Yeah,
there's a handful of them.
And then, you know, and of course that spawned quite a lot of action, you know, and, you know, especially Nath, you know, Nath really sort of took off.
Paul Hughes as well, you know.
Paul Hughes and Billy,
still,
you know, and yeah, there was a lot of people that sort of maybe were motivated by Mark, if not tutored by Mark, you know.
Yeah, he was definitely bringing in a certain idea and philosophy to Scotland in terms of fighting. And
sometimes just to go and do their own thing, which was similar, but... You know, like, he definitely sort of was a catalyst for a lot of people there.
There's that weird thing with MMA, though, that it's like, have you ever heard about Wallace, the guy that was also coming up with the idea of evolution at the same time that Darwin was? So,
oh yeah, I think I have heard of him.
So Charles Darwin was in the Galapagos or whatever, and then he came back to England and started writing his book, Origin of the Species. But at the same time, there was a guy called Wallace. Let's get his name properly.
You're going to type in Darwin versus Wallace.
Yeah.
Into Google.
So this guy was in the jungles in, I think where it was.
I've heard about this guy because
Alfred Russel Wallace, I think.
Because he spent an absolute fuckload of time, like out
I think it was Papua New Guinea. Yeah. He was, but he was also coming up with the same theory, and I think there is a name for it, and I'm not sure what it happened, what it's called. But when people sort of at the same time given all the information that they're given up until that point, a bunch of people come up with a very similar idea theory. And I think that was the same with MMA, you know, in 1993 after seeing the UFC and being brought up with all these mysterious Eastern martial arts, that it was time to figure out if these were legit or not, and I think people wanted to figure that out, and the first UFCs were a great vehicle for that. Totally. And I think it happened in Scotland with MMA as well. Like at the same time, people were sort of training by themselves and cross training, and
because like, you know, even just the people, because Nath went on to form another club and do really well, and then, you know, obviously Billy and Paul did, you know, a very similar thing, you know, and it's probably bloomed, you know, so much more than that. And there'll be other key people like Mark in the UK who have done that. And much things will come from that. But yeah, so I was training with him initially and then moved to Fife just because it was closer.
You lived in Fife?
No, moved to Fife to train. It was, what were they called? Was it Urban
Disturbance.
Yeah.
Wow, that was Paul Hughes' pal.
And the only reason I was there was because I had to wait for a place with Billy.
Those were the days, man. That takes me right back.
Yeah, I had to like wait, and then
I remember rolling, just like going there and rolling on the mats with just randomers.
Yeah.
But people, because it was weird, because...
Did you still have a floppy fringe at that point?
I did, probably.
You totally did.
It was pre-beard.
I'm surprised you didn't have like a tattooed sleeve. You totally missed that one, didn't you?
Do you know what? I want tattoos and I want a sleeve, but I'm so picky. I just never got anything.
I don't give a fuck.
You don't want to give away anything, because that might identify you.
I've got a camel of a
camel toe. I've got
a toe on my tattoo of the toe. So I did bother me. I've got a... You should get a
toe tattooed on your camel.
It's totally fucked. The camel is totally fucked on my toe because I had that accident where I almost lost my foot. The surgeons cut the fuck out of that thing. So it's not in the best of health, that poor tattoo.
But just to bring it back to those early days, I mean, I can't even imagine what year that was that we were, because I remember going through with, was it Paul sometimes, Paul Hughes, to Urban Disturbance, because he was kind of like training a little bit there, teaching some classes, and doing some classes through Dundee Mixed Martial Arts. But yeah, those were the early days.
Yeah. I'd already been training for quite a bit before that, with Nath. And it was, for somebody that wasn't really physically very good, I was basically, I was a pudding. Like I had a bit of a baptism of fire. Like, between Nath and Mark, they ran a pretty tight ship physically. It was, you had to really work fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like, there was a definite way of conditioning there, and it was repetition. You had to have a very strong mindset to be able to train with those guys. It was so it wasn't just being able to geek out and learn new things, deal with different situations, but it was also really about sort of the conditioning aspect in relation to, so you would do 200 kicks,
But that
200 kicks, and then 200 kicks, and then 200 kicks. The warm up was like, the hall was pretty big.
But that comes from that traditional background.
Yeah, I think
where you
so.
have to do repetition.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Lee said, I don't fear the man that knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who has trained one kick 10,000 times.
Well, that was always the way of it back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We both studied that way. Where you had to do, you never knew something until you had done it 10,000 times. And then you used to do it another 10,000 times to make it your own. That was the rule.
Yeah.
So, but then we were like eating that shit up. Like we'd do stuff like 20,000 times. You would make it your goal to.
It's just advanced so much since we started doing MMA.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, I don't know if you still watch the UFC at all.
Do you know
or
something?
any MMA, but
I said to you last time, I can't watch it. And I don't know if it's because that ego thing. When
you get riled up.
Yeah, but it's also that thing where I want to just train, and I'm too old to train it.
Punching everyone in your house because you watched the UFC.
The poor dogs get arm barred. So honestly, my heart rate goes to like fucking 200 beats per minute. I'm just like, ugh.
I'm the same, man.
Actually, what I've managed to do and watch, so last week I watched a bit of Bellator. And I fucking loved it so much more than the UFC.
It's good.
I don't know why.
There's a different vibe to it now. There's Bellator and Cage Warriors is becoming a huge promotion now. And their quality, really good quality. I mean, they're never going to take on the UFC, but they're definitely going to be feeder organizations to the UFC.
I think they're good in their own right.
No, of course, yeah. There's people who are just outright Bellator fans and would never watch UFC, really.
Yeah.
But Chris Bungard, who was on here before, the bad boy Bungard. You remember him from the old MMA days? He is in Bellator now. He just got signed.
No way.
Yep. And Paul Craig, who was on, fights in the UFC as well.
Yeah. I don't know, like with fighting, like it doesn't have to be,
Sorry, if you just bring yourself in.
I'm fucking terrible at that.
No, sorry. There's people 10 times worse than you.
So if you remember, like when we were younger, people would be like, "Oh, you train UFC," and I'd be like, "Well, that's like training Premiership League or something." No, you've trained football. Like
you train WWE.
Yeah, so I'm like, no, I fucking train MMA. But then when I watch it, it doesn't have to be UFC for me. It could be like anything.
Yeah.
But not that I watch it. But I've got to say that I watched I've got such bad Alzheimer's.
Maybe you should have stopped training a bit earlier.
Yeah, totally.
Fedor
Emelianenko versus the guy that took the piss out of all the Brazilians by feeding a bus a carrot.
Chael Sonnen.
Chael Sonnen basically, it was a hard fight, I've got to say, but he basically I was saying to
Fedor's still dangerous,
Yeah,
but he's not the same. But he's dangerous.
Did you watch it?
A little bit.
Oh, after 30 seconds, I was like, Chael Sonnen, fucking flail Sonnen. He's just fucking rolling.
It's like a flannel.
Honestly, it's just like, it's like he was being a drama queen throwing himself down on the mat. But it was because, Fedor does hit fucking hard.
And obviously, Chael can't do the gear anymore.
Do you think in Bellator, is it that regulated? Are they USADA and all that shit?
I think so. They won't be as stringent as the UFC because it takes a lot of money to do the in-depth testing they do. But I don't know.
Man, even the amateur ranks when we were amateurs, like it was fucking wild.
Like some of the guys that turned up for the fights, that
they were
opponents.
they were leaking testosterone in their pores. Like sometimes you look at their like shoulders and their spots, and you'd be like, "Holy fuck!"
I know.
Like
Back night everywhere.
who rolls with these people is like covered in ooze.
The ones that go purple during rolling is the ones that are obviously on gear.
Oh, they just go too much.
Just purple, like
tomato face.
there's just guys like during condition and their faces have gone just cold purple. Like you touch them and they're cold, but they're sweating profusely.
I know. I never bothered because I just thought that hard work would replace it. But I think after you're at a certain level, it definitely helps. At a certain level. But I think you have to get to a certain level before.
I never thought about doing it in terms of thinking that I was going to fight better or anything, but as you get older, it's the training aspect. It's about being able to recover and then go do another training session. That for me, that's what I would always thought like maybe I would do it out with MMA, like TRT or whatever.
I remember saying like I'm going to hit 30 and I'll be old and then I'll just do a wee course, and I've never done it because like I was too scared to. I didn't have the bollocks. But I'm not even joking. Like, see, like
I don't know if you need it. Like I've seen the way you tear down the mountainside on your bike. Like,
yeah, but nowadays, like that recovery is a really big problem because now I'm a ball hair of 40, and
when is your 40th?
It is next year.
That is not very specific.
September next year. Yeah.
When will September end, as they say?
Don't know. For a great day. But the recovery is a problem.
Yeah.
And so also when you're younger, you could.
Do you notice the difference, or do you think it's mental?
No, there is a difference. Like definitely.
One that you could measure. Like you could say,
like fucking before, like I was a maniac. I would just be like,
I know.
We'd go and be like, right, I'd just make shit up. I was never good at following formulas. I was good at following some sort of routine, but some days
being retarded. That's what it was.
Totally, a total knuckle drag fuck nugget. Like when you train, I'd be like, right now we're doing 500 roundhouse kicks with the right leg and the left leg. But like the thing is you would do that back then, and then you would be sore.
Yeah.
But the next day you would be back training again, and after you warmed up, you wouldn't be as sore. But nowadays, like I can't. If I go and like last Christmas, I hadn't trained in the gym for ages because I'd just been cycling. So I went and I was like, let's go do Murph, if you know what Murph is. So I did like 100 pull-ups, and then I couldn't straighten my arms for 2 weeks because I just had like fucking tendinitis, Like, but if you don't do a pull-up in a year and then you go and batter out 100 kips, it's going to fuck you up. But in
do
my
you think
brain,
it could be something to do with your diet as well?
What, being a veggie?
Yeah. Do you think as you get older, it maybe is going to something that you realise more that it is... I don't know, maybe you need something more, or have you been that long as a veggie that might not be that?
My last meat was 1995, and that was a bacon roll. So, I've completely forgotten what all meat tastes like, and like I couldn't tell you what chicken tastes like. I can look at the fibers, and I'm like, oh, that looks so fucking good, and I can look at beef, and beef never smells good to me. But sometimes when people cut into it, I'm like, oh my God. Like I go every sort of 2 or 3 years, I'll have in between 4 and 6 months of like, I can't watch people eat meat. Not because I'm disgusted by it, but because I want to eat it. Like, and I know people that have got like, that run companies to do with the, with chickens and stuff. So I'm always like, any spare chickens? Like, because it is the basis that I don't eat meat because I've not killed it.
Right. Yeah.
But then in this society, even as a country-dwelling chuchter, I've not really... It's not as if you can just go out and fucking hit a cow over the head with a baseball bat and then chop the fuck out of it. The only reason I don't eat meat is just because I don't really... Modern farming techniques are not amazing in terms of how they treat and respect the animals, but they're not terrible. But the thing is that I think if you don't have the bollocks or the bravery to fucking kill an animal, then you shouldn't be eating it. Yeah. And to be honest, like I think me being a veggie is more to do with habit. Yeah, we go back to this habit thing than it is to do with actual any.
Yeah, you're the longest serving vegetarian I've known.
I was a vegan for like 9 years, and it just became habit.
Right.
And then when I started training, initially it was boxing. Years and years ago, I stopped being a vegan because I was just losing weight. And I don't say that in the, you lose weight.
Yeah.
I was just training so much that I was struggling. So I started having like protein powder and milk. And
I think you can do it. Obviously, there are people that can do it, but you have to dedicate your life to just being able to cook and train.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have a job on top of that as well, you know?
It's so funny. Like we both weighed every meal for years. I remember like, you actually were able to eat more shit than I was in off season.
Yeah.
And but then you're on season. I couldn't come on and off because I'm not that controlled. Whereas you were good at controlling yourself when you had a fight and had a fight camp. Whereas I had to go for months before a fight camp because, I have to. Yeah. The temptation's too much for me.
But for me still. Can you still hear yourself? For me, when we were off season, like I could still eat like a lot of shit, but it was because I was sort of changing the way I ate. Because leading up to a fight, I'd be eating like sort of more often and healthier stuff. So I was able to maintain what I was doing.
Steak was a big part of your training camp
Mistake.
diet. I remember you ate steak. Like,
but when I was eating
day.
shit, I would go down to like maybe 2 or 3 meals a day.
Yeah, and just eating
and
loads of calories.
It would just like even itself out.
Yeah.
Like my body just does that. Like I naturally, if I'm eating shit, I won't eat all the time.
Remember we did hill sprints outside your dad's house and I had to have like fucking raw sugar because I was absolutely whiting my pus out after it. Like it was brutal.
That is probably the hill leading up to my house is probably one of the steepest around. Has to be.
So I just got warm water, horsed actual sugar into it because I was.
So like, we ran up this hill like 10 times because hill sprints is where it's at. For conditioning and losing weight.
And puking.
It's the one and only time that I've literally tasted blood in my mouth without any blood in my mouth.
I remember the guy I worked with, Harry John, was like, "What are you doing, boys?" It's like,
fuck off, John.
We were just killing ourselves.
Take your tash somewhere else.
And it was just like, he's just like looking at us like, why would you do that? Who knows?
I mean, I thought it was a great idea. I just thought, when I think of hills, I think of that type of hill, not like a sort of a sort of meandering incline. This is what a lot of people do when they do hill sprints. They don't do like
a proper 15%.
I remember even some of the people that I've trained with in Dundee, they go to Camperdown to do hill sprints. Camperdown's maybe like this.
The only thing you're going to get achieved in Camperdown is seeing a very sad bear.
or some doggers.
Yeah, or some doggers or probably be attacked by a buckfast drinking tracksuit wearing
bear.
Skeevy.
Dogger. A bear dog. A dogging bear. He flashes his fucking
tracksuit.
Flashes his butt fast at you if you want to go. So yeah, that's the hill they do.
How do you recover from the bear banter?
That's pretty hard. Yeah. But the hill we used to do.
Can I just say there was steep. One thing that was more brutal than the hill, and when I say this, you're probably going to shit your pants, but never forget it, Dan. The bread and
butter. Yeah,
you knew.
I was going to say it earlier on.
Yeah, that was.
But I love it at the same time. Like
imagine doing it now. Could you imagine doing that now?
I miss the fear of doing
the
it.
Anticipation of the bread and bar.
Because when we were training, we went pretty hard. So leading up to our respective fights or just training in general together, we'd always do bread and butter, which was on a massive heavy bag, and it was just a combination of left, right, left kick, or right, left.
Yeah,
left kick.
If you were Thai, for me it was just left, right, right, left, right, left.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you were proper Thai, you would mix the punching and kicking up to
whatever you landed on. You would just do the alternate next.
And the heavy bag was held, so it didn't move.
Yeah, but you do that for 5 minutes straight.
Yeah, 5 minutes, and then
We used to do. What were we at
well,
one
so
point?
so what happened? Was
We were
that-
at like 5 rounds
So
of it.
when we first started, we'd do one round each, and it'd be me and then you. And then, of course, as the next time, it'd be 2 rounds each, me, you. But by the end of it, we were on a minimum of 3 rounds each.
Yeah.
But it would be 3 rounds in a row.
Yeah.
You know, but the last round always included instructions, which was sprawl, shoot, or whatever. But they were amazing for fitness. I'll stand by that one. It was as good as sprints.
Yeah,
for
the
fitness.
fights that I fought with us doing that in the background, I was always mentally, I always felt the best
Confident.
for them because I felt like I just had done so much work that no one could outwork me.
The problem with it is that when you fail or when you feel that you're failing a bread and butter, it can dismantle you a little bit, and it can dismantle your confidence in your training camp because you're like, fuck, I never got through a bread and butter. But
Because it's so simple. It's just like a jab cross kick and you do it for 5 minutes in a row. And if you can't do it, you feel like an absolute pussy.
so I just say that one of the things that used to happen with bread and butter was that as you were rotating onto your foot, like that the ball of your foot, or if you were the sort of person that on the heel of your foot, you rotated on the foot, it would heat up because you were there for 5 minutes. You did a lot of kicks.
Well, we were doing it in the fucking Sodomy Academy and upstairs was
roasted.
just a wooden floor.
Yeah.
Like there was no mats or anything.
Yeah, it was wild. And then, so what would happen is your ball of your foot would heat up, and then I would get a blister, but the blister would be deep inside the dermis, right? And as the months would go past, right, this blister would sort of grow
Come
out of the way.
forward,
And then
yeah.
eventually you'd have to cut this bit of hardened skin.
With a bit of blood in it, maybe sometimes. I had a.
But what I used to do was I used to cut the hardened skin off my foot, and it would be just a bit bigger than a 10 pence.
Right.
And I used to hide them in my wife's pockets. And then, and Bob used to do bread, even though Bob wasn't a fighter, Bob used to do it too. And he used to send me photos of him like cutting these bits of skin off his feet. And I fucking hate feet.
I used to wear like the tie things just to have some protection, on the anklets.
man,
Not
yeah.
because it would protect the part that was actually working, but it just was like, I need something on my feet.
Yeah, on the slap in the bag.
Yeah.
If you came up a bit short and never hit the bag of your shin and hit it with your foot, you definitely need one of those anklets. Like
I've never
definitely.
met anyone it's just us. Like, how did you even know about bread and butter? Like,
Again, Mark and Nath.
Okay.
Yeah, totally their deal. Like
it's a mental thing as well. Like if you do like 4 rounds, it's something that is instantaneously measurable against how you do it your first couple of times. Like in your mind, you're saying to yourself, I never could do this. I wasn't able to do this on my first try, even 30 seconds. And then you get up to 3-4 rounds, so 5 minutes of solid, like heavy pace. And you're like, this is amazing.
I think what the bread and butter teaches you is it doesn't condition your body. So it does condition your body,
Yeah.
right? And it does condition your other things, and your physical
Penis,
ability.
yeah.
But what it does is it teaches you how to breathe in relation to your movement and your pace. And when you get into the cage, that's really important. You've got to. So if you shoot and you shoot with all
Your force.
your force, then you've got a bit of a struggle. You have to learn when to work and when not to work. It's the same as jiu-jitsu in certain terms, but it's about pushing. So you've always got to have better pace than another person, so you can push the pace and set your own pace.
Yeah.
But then you've also got to find the balance with it, so that if you get a fucking knee to the fucking sternum, you know how to therefore deal with your cardio in that.
Yeah.
And that's something that is missing from my life nowadays. I don't have to deal with those emergency situations anymore. I just got to cycle up a hill and I can go as slow as I fucking want. So it's funny.
Yeah, one of the things I did want to talk about with you, obviously, was you were biking for a lot of the time, like with your actual motorbike, and then you had an accident, which then forced you to stop running because you hurt your ankle really badly.
Yeah, it was my foot. So I almost lost my foot, and then originally it was like.
Why did you lose it?
So I had a high sight at the racetrack.
So you were at Donington?
No, not Kel.
Okay, not Kel.
Not Kel.
Which
And
is just as famous, is it?
Who knows? To Scottish people, because it's pretty much the only racetrack. There's one more, but that's the main one.
Okay.
So the bike sort of,
Donington's like famous. Is it Donington you said?
It's quite
Yeah,
famous.
not Kel. Not Kel's the one you did it.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. So, but the bike it tumbled, it sort of started flipping end over end. So the crash was completely my fault. It wasn't as if it was like
Should we-
an accident.
Pause it there and get another beer. Do you want another beer?
Yeah,
Or
let's
fine?
talk
Yeah.
more.
So yeah, you were in a terrible, terrible accident. You're all disfigured
Fucked
still.
my face up, fucked my teeth up. No, so so everything in front of the ankle was fucked, shattered.
So this, you were on the bike.
Yeah, yeah.
And how did it happen?
An accident called a high side where the back wheel loses traction and it'll continue
So
to
does
lose
it
traction.
wobble? Is that the thing?
So it slides out, and then once it gets to a certain point, the tire will bite against the concrete or tarmac, and then it throws you
On the other side.
up in the air. Yeah.
Okay. Fucking hell.
And so the bike started to tumble, and the bike landed on me, on my foot, which I'm guessing it hit me in the back as well, but I had like a back protector. But I had really expensive boots on. I had like fucking 300 quid boots on. So imagine I had like the 20 quid jobs from Aldi's and Lidl's. Scott Malone's in there buying his cakes. I'm buying my boots. So I had like really expensive boots on.
So you're just lying there. Like, did you realize that you'd done something?
Did I fuck lie there? Because it's a racetrack. There's people fucking going around there really fast. I got up and ran off the racetrack. Was a fuck lying there? Because I had crashed, but I didn't.
But did you feel any pain?
Yeah, I did. But then I never felt the real pain until they took the boot off, and that's when I. But then also, what happened was the track day was the day before my honeymoon,
Oh,
so I sort of really fucked it up. So then what happened? They were like,
where were
"Yeah."
you supposed to go?
And we were supposed to. It was actually a honey. It wasn't really a honeymoon. It was more a trip for my
Honey,
daughter.
son.
We were going to Legoland. That's what we were going to. But
Great honeymoon. Did you marry a child?
no, I was married with a child. But so anyway, what happened is they were like, you have to go to a hospital in fucking Dunfermline or Kirkcaldy or some shit, and I was like, no.
I don't want to get stabbed in hospital.
No. So I was like, I'm going to go to Perth. So I managed to get somebody to give me a lift to Perth, which was absolutely amazing of them. But the problem was they drove at like 60 miles an hour. I was like, can we please hurry up?
Why did you not get an ambulance through?
Because the ambulance, because it's in Fife, they won't
They
take
wanted
it
to go there, right?
I won't take it to.
But why didn't you want to go to the Fife one?
Because my wife would have fucking destroyed me. But the thing was, it's that I ended up sitting in the hospital for fucking weeks and weeks.
Right.
Anyway, so it didn't matter. I could have been in Fife, but so I originally went to Perth and then went to Dundee for.
Where were you living at this point, actually? In Fornith?
I was in Fornith, yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I don't mind. Yeah, so I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, how long was it before you could even walk?
Officially, it was 3 months.
Wow.
So, yeah, 3 months on crutches. But I was in the hospital for the first month, basically.
Just lying on your back.
Yeah. So the problem that I had there was actually circulation. So
Right.
my foot was blue and purple for like. So initially the problem was they couldn't operate on the foot because it was so swollen. So they told it to me like it was like a haggis. So if you cook a haggis and you
Right.
cut it open.
Okay. Famous Scottish delicacy.
Yeah, so say you got
You
there's
may
no
have to put it in
comparison,
a
is there?
different term.
Fucking how do I explain that one? Right, if you filled,
Do you remember the horror stories you heard about people getting beat up on the street and they come round and say his face was so swollen that we couldn't operate until the swelling went down?
exactly
Yeah.
that? Because if they open it, they can't close it.
Yeah.
That's basically the deal. It's like I don't know, putting a jacket on it and putting on 17 stone and then taking the jacket off. You're not going to get it back on. I don't know.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah. Anyway, so they
Did you just make that up?
yeah, but they said it was like a haggis. If they cut open a haggis, they can't stitch it shut again. So I had to wait just over 2 weeks before they would even touch it.
The swelling was still there after 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, they operated after on day 15 or 16, I think. But it looked like if you'd got a marigold rubber glove and blown it up and tied a knot in the end. My foot looked like that.
So it was yellow.
It's on Instagram. You can have
So your foot was yellow.
No, it wasn't yellow.
Like a marigold.
And I didn't do the dishes with it. But yeah, so and then everything in front of the heel was broken or smashed. So my big toe was really smashed, and then like I had a couple of bones which were trying to get their way out the bottom of the foot.
Fuck.
And then, but the kind of the most important damage was sort of the ligaments, tendons, and I totally fucked a bone called the cuboid.
Right.
So I'm kind of
Was
lucky.
there nerve damage or?
I don't think it matters too much. No, there's no nerve damage, but it's not as if I'm like doing stuff. I'm not doing the dishes.
Feeling with your feet.
No, I'm not one of those fucking feet people, fucking weirdos. But no,
But your partner is.
ugh, feet, ugh. But
I heard she loves. She's probably going to listen to this at some point. So
no,
she's a foot
I
person.
couldn't marry a foot person. No,
Person made of feet or.
nah, no. Yeah, athlete's person. Aye, so I was. It was a difficult time because again, I was on morphine and I fucking hate morphine.
Yeah.
Like most people take morphine, they're like, yeah, everything's perfect. I take morphine and I get itchy and
Really?
grumpy, and I'm like, I want
Is
to
that a
destroy
normal
people.
reaction to morphine?
Fuck knows, because it's always been like that with me. I fucking hate morphine.
When have you taken morphine?
I am
that?
accident prone as fuck.
Oh.
Like, you know, I put my collarbone, I had an AC separation on both shoulders, but one of the collarbones came like fucking, it was like a hands-free kit. I could basically just tilt my head, put the phone, and the collarbone was that far out of my body, so they had to put it back in.
So they have a opioid-induced itching
I get that.
from morphine sulfate and hydromorphone.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry.
So I get that. And then when I get that,
Does it make you a knob?
it makes me very intolerant of people. So we see when people come in and they're like, how you doing? I'm like, enough of the small talk. Leave.
So weird.
Most people are like, I'm so fucking high. I'm like, I hate you.
I know someone and they can't smell weed. It's kind of like that sort of thing. Like most people can get like love it and can like
I think it smells like cat piss. It fucking smells rancid.
or skunk.
It smells horrible. Like, I'm with that person,
Yeah.
like, fucking
They
smell
can't,
it.
smell skunk or weed.
And what does it do to that person?
They can still like get high, so it's not the same. But yeah, but you know when
But they don't like
when
it.
it's not for normal people, some people love the smell of it, but they just can't smell it.
It's really weird. I'm pro a lot of drugs and I'm fucking very anti the hippie lettuce. I don't like the hippie lettuce.
Why not? Actually, no. This brings me to something that you said during the week in reaction to one of my posts. I posted about
God.
keeping the royal family or not.
Can we talk about weed first? So my basic premise on weed is this: if you're Jimi fucking Hendrix and you're amazing at guitar,
He loves heroin, though.
and you smoke a joint, right?
He
There's a
had
chance.
heroin as well.
Really?
He
And acid.
loved the heroin.
All right. Well, I would have got itchy and grumpy, you know. He's famous. I'm just raging.
That's why he played so well, because he was just like trying to get the itch away from his fingers by playing guitar.
I just gave Darren the icky jaw. Heroin is different from ickies. No, but I think if you're really talented and skilled at something and you smoke weed, there is a high chance that you will become even better at it. If it'll focus you, it'll make you more creative. But if you're a lazy cunt who sits around playing Xbox and doing fuck all apart from smelling like damp and cat piss, it will make you even better at that.
But it's not the weed though. It's how you are as a person.
Yes, but that's the thing though, is how many people are excellent in their specified field. Most people are lazy pricks, and if it turbocharges your lazy arseholeness, you know, then how good is that to society? You know,
But it's not going to make you more violent.
I never said that. I just said I don't
No, I'm
particularly
just
like
mean
it.
like the general consensus is that for a long time that weed was, you know, going to make you all weird. And, yeah, have you never heard of reefer madness?
Because I'm not really interested in weed, I've never really delved into that. But
It was a movie that they made during the 1920s.
I remember hearing something about the cotton industry many years ago, sort of saying that it made sort of Mexican and different sort of ethnic backgrounds
more
really
lazy,
aggressive
yeah,
or lazy or stuff, and it was just bullshit. But that's not.
It came from a movie that was made in the 1936, and it was a propaganda film revolving around the melodramatic events that ensue when high school students are lured by pushers to try marijuana, from a hit and run accident to manslaughter and suicide, attempted rape, hallucinations, and descent into madness due to the marijuana addiction.
None of that happened to me. Or did it happen to Bill Clinton when he inhaled?
I think you hallucinated that you got raped.
I knew you were feeding me joints for a reason. But nah, it's just something that it doesn't really work for me. But I'm not a fan of it personally. But I don't really give a fuck if other people smoke it. Really,
No.
It's not as if it bothered. I'm not that motivated to like denounce it or anything. You know,
I think it would be handy. There's a lot of stats on. You know, we have sort of actual figures and stats from America that say these things have went down when they legalized in their state. So, you know, Colorado, they taxed it like so hard that they were making like something like 50% off of it.
I think we just need to look at the statistic that came out last week, which is opioids and synthetic opioids now kills more people in America than fucking guns. So let's just have, yep. And car accidents.
What about white people? More than white people?
I don't know.
Does it kill more people than white people?
I have no
white
idea.
White privilege? Does it kill more people than white privilege?
I have no idea. See, because I'm a white...
It's because you have white privilege that you don't know this.
Yeah, but because I'm a white man who lives in rural Scotland, what would I actually know? Well, I don't even know. I take it white privilege just means that you're white and you've got money?
No, like...
But then what happens if you live in a...
White privilege is something that's inherent because you've grown up being white. You've never had to face any problems or plight that comes across people who aren't white. So women, black folks, or transgender people.
I think my problem when it comes to these things is that I was raised to treat people as people. So if I see a black person, or if I see a woman or a man or a child, or I should see them as people. I don't divvy them up in my brain to go, that's this subset.
I think a lot of people in Scotland are like that. Unless you're sort of the certain sect that is from Glasgow where it's Catholics against Protestants.
Yeah, that would suck to be raised like
but,
that.
I mean, I grew up pretty much in the woods. Then I moved to America.
You've lived in so many different communities that surely that, you know, you've listen, there's always a difference between families. There's difference between people. But I think the difference in you as a person, you know that they are people. They're either good people or bad people.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with money. It's nothing to do with
But just to sort of finish,
really,
what I was saying about that is I lived in America, in Louisiana, which is the South, sort of notoriously racist.
Right.
And there's a huge percentage of black folks down there. And I went to high school with a bunch of people, you know, from all different places. And I had a large number of black friends as well. Not that it was like a thing or anything.
It was just people.
But coming from somewhere where I'd never really interacted with anyone who was black, and then going to sort of like a large part of my friends were black, to me it wasn't a thing. And then I sort of encountered all these different parts of racism through that high school. Like I saw it firsthand, and I just couldn't understand it. Like I remember seeing I stayed in the bayou, like the deep south.
Yeah.
I remember just on the football team, white kids.
At that time, were you thinking, why are these people saying that horrible shit?
Well, this is what I'm getting to. Like with it, there was white kids and the black kids were interacting, and then the black kids would sort of walk off, and then some of the black kids were like, "Oh, fucking niggers" and all this, and I'm just like, I don't get it. It's like there's just sort of a predisposition to that, I guess, for a lot of people in the world. Yeah. And it comes from your family, it comes from the way you've been brought up, their upbringing as well. And in Scotland we don't have that innate sense of racism.
Do you know something? I think we've just been lucky that we've grown up in communities where the hate isn't that huge. You know, that maybe
I've said this like just to sort of make an example, like people always ask me, "Oh, Scotland's quite forward thinking. You know, we don't have anything against people who are gay and get married and all this sort of thing." And I was like, "It's not because we're all for these rights, it's just because we don't care.
Totally.
We don't give a fuck.
You know, I think the movie that really that resonated for me was, I don't know if this is cheesy or not, and I don't really give a fuck. I've never heard of Birdcage, but V for Vendetta. I think it just, you know, and the reason it resonated with me was because it was just, you know, like, so there's like obviously a lesbian couple in the story, and it's just two people that love each other.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know where that comes from in the Scottish culture, that if you love somebody, that's it. You know, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all there is. If you love somebody, you love somebody. You can't help it. You know, that's who you love.
And obviously, like,
But then if you're from the west of Scotland, you grow up in the sort of more Catholic Protestant
Southwest,
thing.
yeah.
It's
I mean,
fucking,
can't
like,
even
that must be
imagine that.
rough.
I mean, I guess if bigotry is part of your life, then you would be more susceptible to things like that in your life. So if you come across someone, not literally, obviously, a gay person or a couple, then you're going to be more inclined to be homophobic. If it's part of your day-to-day life, if you have so much hate for another group.
Yeah, but that's belief, that's conditioned into you. That's, you know, if you've been taught that.
But it means you're easily going to be like that, though.
So is what we're talking about where we were raised and we were brought up, is that ignorance, is that white privilege because we've never had to cross this bridge and we're just clueless and we're just like stumbling through life going, la-di-da, everything's fucking perfect, don't hate people.
I think,
is that white privilege or is that just ignorance?
I think a lot of people would be quick to say it's ignorance, but I don't think it is. I just think it's being clueless, kind and inclusive to other people. Like, you don't care.
I think it's, yeah.
But a lot of people, that's not good enough for them. Like, they have to make you care about their plight in their world.
Is it you have to join a side nowadays? You're not just allowed to be,
totally. Yeah.
You're not allowed to see it from your own point of view.
To
or
be
somebody
just
else's
like
point
sort
of
of stand, like not caring and just letting people get on with their life is not enough for a lot of people. They're like, you have to be part of the cause and fighting and causing trouble. You know, you have to be one side or the other. Yeah. Like, if you're not on the left, you must be on the right.
Yeah, I think
Which
the left.
Is bullshit.
So it's possible to not be in the left and not be in the right and not be a complete horrible racist cunt.
Well, I'm in the middle.
You know, I think that is, you know, sometimes, you know, with the snow. Sorry, I keep looking at the map of Leaf behind you there. But what? Sometimes with the, you know, like I've heard the map of Leaf.
Oh. the map of Leaf.
But I've heard the term snowflake generation, where it's that ultra left.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't understand that just as much as I don't understand racism or that hate on the right.
Yeah.
You know, and we're at a point now where we've lost the ability to understand each other's. I just said I don't understand the far left, I don't understand the far right. But what I'm saying is that, you know, we're nobody's listening to each other. That polarization, we've lost the ability to take on other people's ideas and suggestions, and to actually to challenge something with discussion rather than just shouting and screaming, and both sides are wrong to each other.
Yeah.
Nobody's actually finding a way forward. They're just blaming.
I mean, people are sort of taking the tools that we use to sort of break down these things and understand them, and they're trying to make issues with that language. You know, like they're trying to say that you can't use these terms, even though it's how we break down issues and figure out what's going on. But then they make you feel bad about trying to do that through the language which you use, and which is terrible.
So I'll give you an example of that. When on my way through, I was
someone called you a nigger, yeah.
No.
You called someone a nigger.
I can't even say that word. No, no, but
that's my white ignorance coming out though, because I've never called anyone that.
No, I listened to Mark Maron and he used the term "nailed it," and then he apologised for it because you're not allowed to use the term "nailed it" anymore.
In front of a Christian.
No, I think it's because of that sort of chauvinist male perspective that nailed it comes from a derogatory term. But then, listen, like we have to, you know, like, is it, if I said nailed it, it would be because I did something good. It wasn't because I was thinking about doing something to somebody.
No,
you know, I just feel.
But that's a microaggression to someone, and
But where do you draw the line of where of?
But you don't. That person does. You know, that's the way it is.
See, this is why
it's ever moving.
Honestly, though, that's why I love living in the country and almost exclude myself from society. You know, I don't have Facebook and I don't have stuff like that. I'm really thinking about leaving Instagram because it is just Facebook.
Yeah.
And that's my only social media. I don't have Twitter or Snapchat. But it is because, you know, the more I look at society, did you ever think, the more I look at society, the less I can relate to these people, right?
Yeah.
I think it's really bizarre. But could you ever get to the point where you thought that you're going to have a worse president in America than George W. Bush? Did you ever think that you were going to reach that point in your life where you're going to be like,
I almost look back on him fondly now.
how
George
crazy
Bush,
is that?
because of what we have, what America has now, or what we have in the world now.
I tell you, the hope that us Chookters were filled with in Scotland when Obama became president for America and for the politics of the world, we had a lot of hope. And I always thought, you know, what is going to come after him? It's going to be even better. Wrong. We're so wrong. You know, and that's, I mean, look at the politics of Britain. I mean, it's so insane.
I'm almost sort of envious of American politics.
Really?
The political system, obviously it has a lot of flaws, but the UK one is completely terrible. It's just been hijacked by the upper class.
I disagree.
It's only one class. It's a certain like you have the amount of people that went to Eton that have become prime minister is insane. Like these are people that just don't connect with their constituents whatsoever. They were born with a certain amount of money. They were born to go to a certain school and then be groomed to be prime minister.
So I'll give you
But how many members of the public could become prime minister of the UK?
Well, that is a definite flaw. I'm not going to argue with that. That, you know,
And just sort of to reinforce my point, if you had the money in America, if you technically as a Joe Public, you could then go on to be president of the United States.
Yeah.
If you had enough money.
So, you know, where the royal family and where the politics comes into it is because of certain British tradition, right? So some things are a fucking nightmare in British tradition, in politics and all that sort of jazz. Right, but so if you look at the ways that laws are made, right, it's a very drawn out process, but it's actually a reasonably efficient process. It doesn't always work properly, but I reckon it's you know, sort of the way that you know, the white papers work and all the rest of it. It's actually a pretty good process. I wouldn't say it was terrible. Yeah. Okay. Now,
technically, that's not to do with the politicians, though.
It's the way that they operate inside the Parliament, you know, and because it's got to be passed by both parliaments, so it goes through Westminster first, and then it's finalised, you know. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that if you look at our current Prime Minister, her husband is one of the majority shareholders in G4S. They're the biggest contracted company to the British government in terms of money. So they earn a lot of money through the British government through different contracts. And I think they're one of the biggest private companies who are funded by the British government. Now, in America, I think what you would find there is that it wouldn't be the prime or the president's, if she was a female, husband who would own that company. It would just be the president, pretty much, you know. So insider trading is completely and utterly 100% allowed in American politics. So that's when you have people, you know, out at just off the cuff, sort of, I don't know, but I think Dick Cheney had quite a few companies.
Well, he was in, he had Halliburton, I think, was it? He was involved in, not Halliburton, the one that went on to then rebuild Iraq. Was the big company.
Yeah, so he's a businessman and a politician, but that doesn't happen so much in British politics. So, you know, so I think that what we're saying there is that that's why I would say that, you know, I wouldn't say I was envious of American politics, because I would like my politician to be a politician and not necessarily a business person. Yeah. I dare say it happens in Britain. Like, let's not beat around the bush, like, but...
What do you mean, the George Bush?
So that's why I think that, you know, but also American politicians also think that they deem themselves as proper politics, and they deem British politics as almost childish. I think that perception is, I've heard that perception before.
Really? I don't think it's childish. I feel like it's sort of antiquated. Our politicians and our way our whole system works. At least the US, even though they're so the public are very religious about their politics. You know, it almost becomes, if you say no against that, then you're sort of challenging people who believe in that political system. But I think it just is so antiquated over here, like compared to there. At least they try to make it change for the better.
You really think so? Do you think that America is a more progressive
No,
political
I'm not
community
saying that,
than
but
Europe or Britain?
in comparison, like relatively, you know, I'm not saying like actually, like I'm just saying relative to our relative countries, that those, I think the British system's just not that great and not that productive.
Oh, that's really odd, because I totally don't think that. I know, and I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
But you know, as a common bystander, as a common man and a bystander, I think that, you know, like,
but could you ever hope to be prime minister one day?
I wouldn't want to be.
But if you wanted to, like, if you wanted that choice,
So I suppose that's maybe really privileged, isn't it? You've got to be born into that bloodline, so it's essentially like a royal family, the political system.
and that's exactly how you should describe it. It is very much a bloodline.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think SNP is trying to like dilate that and trying to break that.
I think they've really done that. You know, it's what's, you know, like, is it Mary Black? Is that the
The Tory in Scotland, is that it? No, or the one, the young sort of girl in the SNP. Is that who you're talking about?
Man, she speaks in Westminster like she gives no fucks. She's mad.
She's like your sort of PE teacher when you were younger, though.
Oh, man, she's just like, I think she's fearless. I think she's genuinely fearless.
So yeah, off the whole politician side of things, how do you account for your response to my post about the royals?
It's actually a really similar thing, you know. So I'm not saying that British politics is the best politics. I'm not saying that the working systems are in any way, shape or form effective, because let's not kid ourselves. That's not how it actually is. But what I'm saying is that in certain terms, because of that tradition, because of the way that I go back to the way that laws are formed, or the way that things operate, it's difficult to get through too much bullshit through Parliament. You know, people pay attention to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's broadcast, it's publicised. You know, it's much less.
Debated.
There is whips, obviously, and there's all the rest of it, but it is slightly more difficult to basically fleece the people completely.
Please, I should be on the note. Fleece the people. I should be their operatus. Operatus Mandi?
Just fleece the people.
Fleece the people.
I think, you know, when you're talking about, like, because I had said, no, we need to keep the royals, it is 100% based on this premise. That if you remove the royal family, therefore you remove the whole legal system for the political system in this country, and then we would actually have a president. But
the Parliament's different. I mean, if you go into the conspiracy theories, then they say that the Queen has a lot more power than she alludes to. But she should, like, she has like the ultimate say in a lot of things. But at the same time, she was supposed to hand over power to the Parliament, and it should be sorted out in Parliament. So how do you think that the royal family still works within that?
So it's a complete token gesture.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a complete token gesture. So if you actually looked into it, then, you know, generally what happens is that, yes, you're right. You know, that it's the House of Lords and the House of Commons and the Queen that, you know, that therefore sign everything off officially.
Yeah.
You know, but then it's not completely restricted like that. I do not believe. You know, Westminster can push through a law if so. For instance, if a law or something is rejected by the House of Lords twice, and it goes back to the House of Commons, it then can go through anyway.
Right.
So, you know, so therefore, you know, like the head of state, which is the Queen, you know, I could be totally wrong about this.
But do you think it should go through one person?
But then it's, as I was saying, no, it shouldn't. So therefore, yes, you're right. But the point of it is that it's almost going through the motions.
Yeah.
It's not actually. It's more
like you
of
say, like a token gesture.
Yeah. It's like having to march somewhere you could just
that's
walk. Nobody's
expensive.
gonna march. But then if you remove that, like look at
But to prop up that queen is expensive. Like that's an expensive token gesture.
But then you want to operate like America. We just had this discussion where I think that British politics is not great, but I don't think I still think American politics is not benefiting.
No.
I think the British politicians work harder for the people than the American politicians.
Yeah.
I believe that. Now, if I believe that, then why would I remove the Queen to therefore have the same political status they have?
Would you not think that the Parliament would still run the same way without the Queen?
That we could advance our politics beyond that. Is that what you're saying? So we could actually have a political system that was more effective.
No, I'm saying, do you think it would the Parliament could still operate the exact way it does now without the Queen? Or do you say she has to be there for it to operate?
Yeah, so because it's encompassed and it's enshrined in law. So everything that goes on in law and politics is essentially got the stamp of approval from the Queen. So if you remove that, then therefore legally it's worth nothing.
Yeah. But
I'm not explaining this very well.
But what is legality? It's all bullshit anyway.
Yeah, but you still have to have it for the basic premise or for the
I don't know,
regulation of your communities.
I think you're putting a lot of faith into the Queen to not sort of fuck us.
It's not about the Queen, it's about the system.
But you are saying you need the Queen for the system to work.
Basically, I think that there is a better way.
Okay.
But this is the but. We can't even remove ourselves from Europe without bickering like a bunch of fucking idiots. So how the fuck are we supposed to rewrite our complete legal and political system down? It is, you know...
I mean KP.
Sorry, KP. Beep.
Yes, so, Chancellor Pudding.
So the whole point of it is, man, is that we are so regressive as a society. We can't even just... organize one thing.
No.
So to restructure our whole, as I said, illegal and political thing, it's just, it's a nice thought. Do you think? I think we shouldn't
come forward a wee bit.
I think we shouldn't give billions and billions to the Queen and our family, who pretty much.
I mean, my thought process is, I just don't think it should. The law and how we run our country shouldn't bottleneck with her. If it does, if it has to go through her officially and it has to be, like you say, stamped and have her approval. But if it doesn't, there's still that threat of her being able to do these things.
Yeah, I think the best way to explain
it's an expensive threat. I think the rest of the UK, that is a very expensive threat. I
think the best way to explain it is that when she puts her stamp on things, what happens is that if it goes through both houses, then what happens is she goes, essentially, if it does go through both houses, then they've put it through, and it's just like
I heard she has to like queef on the little stamp, and then
she's got a shout on it. No, she's just it's such a token gesture.
Yeah, but is that what the whole?
So
of the
she's
UK
not stopping anything.
But is that what is the identity of the whole of the UK? Is someone who's propped up to be a token gesture? Or is our real sort of identity and our progressiveness?
I'm just going to go. You just said to me through Instagram, do not say tourism. I'm just going to point out say tourism. No, I think you would actually have to look. So, like any business, right? You would actually have to look how much it costs, how much it earns. Yeah. So tourism, maybe not, right? But delegacy, is that the right word? Delegation. So the royal family still run a lot of delegation work.
Yeah.
How much is that worth to our country? We have to look at that before you look, because it is essentially, it's a global and economic marketplace. So if the royal family actually contribute to our global economic marketplace, then therefore they have some value, and they don't actually cost us, they actually make us. So, but then you'd have to know that, Darren.
But let's just say that all that is true. Why would you put someone who you see as more value than you? The whole idea of a royal bloodline or whatever is just complete. It's a farce. Well, it's something that's completely made up. It's all just about interbreeding. That's it. That's all the royals are.
We should really go back to the Dan Carlin podcast where he talks about the First World War, how all the delegation between the countries were, to stop the war was actually done through the royal family. It was essentially the internet or the mail service of back then. That.
But that's because we're all chimp-like and we have to promote like an alpha male and alpha female to represent us.
Yeah, but just because it's an old school thing that maybe, I can't believe I'm sticking up for the Queen. What the fuck? I have no idea why this is. I have genuinely no idea why I'm sticking up for the Queen. I'm defending.
Well, it's a conversation. That's all it is.
I have no idea why I'm on this side of the fence.
If I'd asked you this like 10 years ago, you would have fucking punched me for suggesting that you might have stuck up with
That's
them.
only because I look like one of the Sex Pistols.
You look like one of their sort of retarded brothers. The Queen, that is, not
It's funny because it's true.
Not the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, I actually think that this is one of the least of our worries at this point, is the royal family. And if you're even talking about it, you're not paying attention to actually what the fuck is going
this
on.
is the distractions that we get served in the newspapers. Like, who gives a fuck about some royal duke
As soon as the Tories do anything, they just roll out the Diana stories again in the Daily Mail. Do you know what I'm saying? But the point of it is
we have
that
someone who thinks they're fucking what's the name? The other female prime minister,
Margaret.
Yeah, like Theresa May thinks she's Margaret Thatcher. But I've said this before a bunch of times. For all the terrible things that Margaret Thatcher represented and did, at least she was sort of strong and had a spine. Whereas Theresa May is completely fucking just not of that quality or caliber as a person.
I think what fucks everything that Margaret Thatcher has ever done or did for the country, she supported apartheid, and I fucking despise her for that.
Terrible.
You can't.
She was against all the strikes and all that. Do you know what someone said on the radio? I think it was a lady who was part of Margaret Thatcher's cabinet. I think a couple of months before she left. Did she leave? I don't know what happened in the end.
She resigned.
Resigned.
So it was a very similar situation to just now. So what actually happened was she used to bring people into her office almost to argue, discuss, or cajole.
Yeah.
And then when Margaret Thatcher realised that her cabinet were
Against
sort of
her.
deserting her, then she resigned. This is my knowledge of it. But I always remember, because I'm old enough to remember her resigning, and I remember her crying, as she was leaving.
She never showed any emotion through the whole of her.
But even as a child, I remember thinking, she's not crying for any other reason than she's feeling sorry for herself. She's not crying because she feels like she's
done something wrong and she's like sort of apologising for it. She's just feeling sorry that she's not Prime Minister anymore.
Power.
So this young lady who became part of her cabinet, like in the last days of Rome, inside the cabinet, and she said that she thinks Thatcher would be supportive of staying in the EU. She was like, wanted that to happen, supposedly.
See, the EU is carnage. It is kind of a bizarre situation because I don't think actually, I could be wrong about this as well, but I don't actually think the EU is a democracy. The people who are at the very core of the EU haven't been elected.
It's centralised.
But then if that happened in a small country that we didn't like, be like, fuck you, we're invaded. But it's not, I don't think it's a true democracy. I think it's just...
It's tough. It's the best version of what we can do. I think it's better to be at the table than not. That's my view. And as a global country, like as a world that's become globalized, we have to deal with the fact that we're going to have a centralized government, and we have to make it sort of work the best way that we can.
I think, I feel like a European. I want to be a European. I don't want Brexit to happen. I want to be part of Europe, and I want to feel that family almost, and I want to be able to travel. I actually wish we could use the euro.
Yeah.
And when I was saying that, that Europe isn't a democracy, I wasn't meaning that. It's obviously difficult to regulate lots of different countries who regulate themselves from a regulatory position.
It's notoriously not seen as a democracy. Like, that's not unknown about the EU. but it's something that we have to work on.
It's almost management there. That's all it is. It's middle management. I've got to the top.
The upper middle management.
Yeah, that's it. But it's a bizarre situation. But I do feel like I'm a European, and I think it's incredibly sad that we're leaving. I think it's sad for very, very many reasons. But I feel, we've been in Europe all of my living days. So
even up with all the wonders of technology that we have, and the sort of introspective sort of stuff that we've done in the last 70 years, 2 major world wars where the whole of the world was involved, going to the moon, these are things that takes a lot of sort of perspective on where your place is, and we still can't get it together to get past being tribalistic and, we're just wanting to sort of be an island by ourselves because other people want to come to our country. That's what that boils down to for a lot of people in England.
I know. Again, I feel that the Leave vote was fueled by hate. It's fueled by fear. And I live in a community where it's mostly white people because I'm from rural Scotland, but. So I maybe don't understand it from people who live in bigger cities, that live in a more multicultural place. But I just wish that people were a bit more tolerant.
Yeah.
And I think that the Brexit vote was fueled by people.
Yeah, disinformation and ignorance.
Sure, Scotland voted pretty much totally for,
of
for
course.
Europe, didn't it?
Yeah, to stay in.
Yep.
And how can you deal with a whole country that voted to stay in the EU? Like, this is one of the things I think about England and Scotland is we're just bashing heads because we don't have the same outlook on life, or even just Anyway, it's getting deep with the EU, but I'm trying to get someone on who knows what's going on with it.
I don't know that shit. I just know
because it's happening. It's happening soon.
I know. We're about to get our pants pulled down, I think.
I think I said this on the last show, and I think the SNP types are too focused on Indie Rev 2 as opposed to boycotting leaving the EU. That's the thing.
Can I just say this? If any fucker from the SNP is listening to this podcast right now, what I want to say is this: I would like you, the SNP, to start up your sister or brother group in England, and not for the benefit of Scotland, but for the benefit of England.
Right.
And here is why: is because there needs to be a third party, a real working third party in England. I think Wales has it. I think I'm unsure about Northern Irish politics, and I'm definitely never visiting that one.
It's definitely on this sort of the fence at this moment. Yeah,
I really think that people who are working for the SNP need to provide because in certain terms it is not the left and it's not the right. For me, that's how I view it.
Yeah,
I view it as sometimes a little bit more common sense.
Yeah,
and I know that I'm speaking about my political affiliation here, but it's just slightly less nonsense.
Because you're right as fuck.
No, I'm wrong as fuck. No, but it's just slightly less nonsense than the rest of those fucking idiots. Like who wants to be either governed by Theresa May or Jeremy Corbyn? Just give me a shout, because I would like to know, because I don't.
I mean, I think this is we're just at the 2 hour mark.
Fuck my life. 2 hours. I've talked someone out of shite. I'd just like to apologise to everybody for talking pure shite.
No, it's been amazing. The newcomers, maybe you've heard this. Newcomers to the show, I usually ask these questions just to get sort of how where they are in life and how they think about sort of these things. But like just a couple of questions. So number one, your sort of favourite movie that you've seen, or your all-time favourite movie?
Man, I have a couple of movies which I fucking love. So one I mentioned already, I love V for Vendetta. I know it's very romantic and
it's amazing,
all that stuff, but I really love it.
Everyone loves that knows anything.
You know this, is that when I get sick, the movie, everybody has a movie that they watch that warms their heart when they get sick, and my movie for that is
pornos.
I actually quite like Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, it's a great one.
What's I forgot the name of it because I got Alzheimer's. The one with Bruce Willis and He's in the future.
Looper.
No.
12 Monkeys.
No.
How
So
many
guess
future?
again.
How many future movies has Bruce Willis been
And
in?
he's with the ginger supermodel.
Who's this?
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis.
With the ginger supermodel. It's in the future. And it's got... I can't remember.
Okay.
It's got Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Anyway, sound. How are you doing for memory?
So
Terrible.
favorite album of all time.
I'm just going to go for it. My most listened to album of all time, you're going to totally mock me for this, is Rise and Shine by PMX. I've listened to that album more than any other album.
You don't want to promote any of those guys on this show.
Fucking right, I do. I fucking love those guys.
I thought it was going to be Threshold 6.
No, who's that? No, definitely Rise and Shine by PMX is the most listened to album I've ever listened to.
Wow.
Yep. It was a big part of my social group. And,
of course.
And
they've been going together almost must be 25
recording
years.
a new album just
Must
now?
be 25 years. And Scott Henderson is an absolute shredder on the guitar.
Fucking knows it.
Amazing. I might get him on the show actually.
Fucking knows it.
So favourite book of all time or one you're reading at this moment?
I've just actually finished Red Sparrow, the movie. Fuck me, what a book.
Well, the one
awesome.
with Get My Tits Out. McGee.
I couldn't even remember my favourite film, so how the fuck am I supposed to remember Jennifer Lawrence's name?
How did you remember that? The book of Red Sparrow.
Yeah,
Is it good?
I was just at the house and read it.
Was it on the toilet?
My favourite series of books ever is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Of course.
But I would just like to say, if you ever get the chance to read The Little Prince, don't watch the Netflix film. Go and read the book. It'll take you about 5 minutes to read it, and it's one of the most beautiful books ever. I don't know why.
And we'll end on this favourite quote.
Again, a Douglas Adams quote. Oh no, I might give you a Terry Pratchett one actually. It's about the creation of the world, which is, at first there was nothing, and then it exploded.
There we are, man. Thank you for coming on. It's been awesome. You're more than welcome to come on ever again.
I love you, man.
I love you too.